You are tired of average. You want more out of life. You know you're capable of something greater. This show will help you become resilient in your home, at work, and in your community. Welcome to the Resilient Humans Podcast with your host, Kevin Wood. And welcome back to the Resilient Humans Podcast. I got a great guest today. I know I always say that, but it is a great guest. It's Ryan Fellows. He is a recent grad of the Enlifted Level 2 program. He's also a fellow CrossFit affiliate owner and has been since 2016. CrossFit Resound. Yeah? Did I get it right?
Yep.
Awesome. Ryan, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Kevin. I am super excited to be here.
Cool.
And eager to talk about all the things today.
We have no schedule here and no outline. This is going to be very free flow, but I think our listeners will enjoy that. We were just talking prior to hitting record. We were kind of traveling down CrossFit memory lane, so it was kind of neat. I was like, we have to record this. This is important information that people would want to listen to. So, tell me a little bit. First off, where are you from? Tell me a bit about your family and maybe how you got into this whole CrossFit space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my wife Lexi and I, and all of our kids. We've got 5 kids between the two of us. We live in Hastings, Nebraska, so we are in the middle of the country, middle of the U.S. Farming, agriculture community. About 25,000 people in our town here. And we've owned CrossFit Resound, as you mentioned, since 2016, and we got into ownership not because we decided that owning a CrossFit gym is what we had always wanted to do. We were members of the gym, and the existing owner at that time had said, "Hey, I'm moving out of country. Do you guys want to take this over? If not, we're gonna have to close up the doors." And so we agreed to do that, not knowing really what we were getting into. And here we are now 8 years later doing the things. And it has truly become more than just a labor of love, where, hey, if we don't do this, we're gonna have all these people, all of our friends aren't going to have a place to work out, including us. So it's moved from that to, hey, we want to do this thing and do it really well. And so we've been on our own journey of getting things right, getting things wrong, over the last 8 years of owning an affiliate. I have done CrossFit since 2013, and prior to that, I had just a background in basically endurance running. Did the 5Ks, the half marathons, marathon. That was my flavor, as well as the basement DVDs, right? The P90Xs and the Insanities and all those. And just on a whim decided to try CrossFit. There was someone that I had known who was starting a CrossFit affiliate in our town, and out of their garage. And so I think it was a Friday evening, I heard about it, and then I was in their on-ramp class on Monday and just instantly fell in love with the variance, that I could just show up and do something different every time, and I didn't have to figure it out. They would tell me and teach me what I needed to know. And it's just been like I said, a journey since then. In addition to owning an affiliate, my wife and I both work, and we've worked in various, well, more so me. She works at a local bank. She's the head of the marketing positions there, and she's been there for quite a long time. So she does that in addition to running the gym. And I've had a variety of jobs. I've gone through. I actually went to school for youth and music ministry, and so I've had experience working in church work and ministry work, and so I still do that part time. I've also gone through phase of building custom furniture, and I had a design business, and the design business was really anything under the umbrella of design. So t-shirts and printed apparel, signage, vinyl lettering, and then it carried off into custom furniture. And then I ended up stopped doing that because there's a lot of balls in the air when you're trying to juggle all those things. And so in the name of paring down the focus, we are solely we're just focusing on owning the gym, and then these part-time jobs basically outside of that. So that's how we got into it. That's where we live, what we do. And then as you mentioned, just recently I've graduated the enlifted level 1 and level 2, that you were part of the level 2 as what's the official role or title? Teacher assistant, second
assist.
man. Okay.
Yeah.
Vice president of yeah. So just coming off of that, and I would, prior to, I don't know, even 3 months ago, I wouldn't have called myself a professional coach in any form. But I do see myself as a professional mindset coach, or a professional coach, period. I help people move from where they're at. And that can mean a lot of different things, but ultimately it's from where they're at to a better place, and they get to define what better looks like. And so fallen head over heels in love with the mindset coaching that the Enlifted method provides, and makes so simple and effective. So I've been doing that now since officially since last September, I believe. September. So in a nutshell, yeah, that's what I'm doing and who I am.
Very cool. When we've chatted a few times, I see a lot of you, or a lot of me in you. Like, the stories are very similar. Just going over, like, what are some super fun or interesting facts about you? You're like, oh, I do a lot of endurance style fitness events. I'm like, damn, that's me. Half marathon. Yep. Marathon. Yep. Spartan races. Yep. Tough Mudders. Yep. Hurricane heats. Multiple. Have you ever done a GoRuck event? That's what I want to know.
I haven't, and I've heard a lot of good things about that. And the reason why I haven't is not because I don't want to. It just has never, the opportunity hasn't presented itself in the way that some of the other things have. The hurricane heats through Spartan. Yeah, I've done a couple of those, and that's been, I love the endurance aspect of that, where it's more than just, hey, go run 13 miles, go run 26 miles. It's you're in it, either 12 hours or 24. I think they have different versions even beyond that. But yeah, I love that, and the mental aspect involved in participating in that, as well as the team aspect. There's so much, so many interesting things that happen in an endurance event, where you are relying on other people, and you are providing a skill set to a team. And so yeah, I definitely love those kind of events that push you outside of your comfort zone, see what you're made of, and give you something to chew on after you're done. But yeah, I would love to do a GoRuck at some point.
Do it up. I always said that those activities were a way for me to express my fitness. Like, we don't do thrusters to get really good at thrusters. Right. That's not the point. The point is that you can take what you have developed while doing thrusters, squats, deadlifts, pull-ups, and all that, and then express it. And so I love expressing it in these types of events, because most of the people there are also doing the same thing. And when you get to jive with those people, when you get to suffer with those people and also support those people and get supported from them, it leaves you in a much different, your mindset changes. It literally changes. You evolve as a person while you're in these events. Those hurricane heats. I remember we did one in Massachusetts near Boston, and it was so cold. They had this stick, and it was like 2 feet. There's a line on it that said, you must be this height or shorter to ride, right? Like
Mhm.
typical
Mhm.
carnival thing.
Mhm.
And they said if anybody's head comes above this at any point, there will be consequences. So we're traveling down this gravel road, hands and knees. Everybody's like army crawling. I swear it was a mile of crawling in the mud, dirt, rocks. And then people are listening, like, why on earth would you ever put yourself through that? Because we had people where their heads popped up and we had to start back at the top again. So we
Mhm.
traveled well more than a mile because we had to keep restarting.
Yeah.
Why would you do this?
Yeah.
So why? What's your answer to that? Why would you do something like that to your body?
Well, like you said, it's a way to express your fitness, and it's also a chance for you to test yourself. Physically, yes, more so like what am I made of? Who am I?
Mm,
And there's things that I look back on now in my experience, having gone through a couple of those events where, for example, there was, and they've got all these different, um, uh, whatever you would call them, you know, basically here we're going to do this for an hour, right? Or we're going to
an iteration.
iteration or like a cycle or
Yep.
evolution if you
Yep.
want to get all. But the one of the one of the evolutions we were in, they said, all right, everybody's going to get down into a plank position and you're going to hold. I can't remember if it was a 5 minute plank. They said, we're going to hold a 5 minute plank, or could have been even bigger than that. But whatever number they said, in my mind, I'm instantly like, there's no way I can do this. And they said, if you don't do this, you're out. Like you go home. And so under threat of that, like everybody starts and, you're in it for 30 seconds or 45 seconds or a minute. And wherever you're at in, as the clock's moving along, like, I don't know if I can do this. Right. And then all these thoughts come into your head and I panicked. I was doing it with my brother, which was a whole cool experience, bonding experience with him. But I was next to him and I'm like, I can't do this. And I gave up. I quit. I felt like I just quit. And I wasn't the only one. There were, a good number of people who ended up quitting, and a very small number of people who hit the whatever the mark was. And long story short, they ultimately said, basically, this is a test. You're not actually out, but it's just a test to see what you made of. So I still continued on, but looking back on that now, I'm like, man, I was so quick to just panic, so quick
Mhm.
to allow the story that was going through my head of you're not capable, you can't do this, um, to dictate an outcome for me, right? And so there's that. And overall, just you mentioned the cold. We did it in Arizona, and normally you would look at Arizona and think, wow, that's a really warm place. Overnight, it was down in the 30s. We had t-shirts and shorts, and so that was a whole experience. But the overall factor in any of that is you look back and you think, what does this mean about me? So like knowing what I know through the Enlifted method, where we assign meaning to ourselves, about ourselves, through all of the experiences that we have, right? Like, what does this mean about you? Looking back on that now, there's things that I pull from that, and I'm like, yeah, this means this about me, or I see an opportunity that I missed, and I could beat myself up about not being able to do that plank or whatever. But I learned a lot of things about myself through that process. So the why then is for that reason to just find, Ryan, what are you made of? When you get squeezed a little bit in a different way than you're used to, what comes out? And um, and then the other layer to all that is you're doing it with people who are there for that same reason, right? So when I coach classes, we've got people who have made a commitment to being part of something that they don't have to, right? The general population, I don't know what the percentage is, but how many people just don't work out, right? And so by choosing to be part of a gym, you are making a commitment that other people are not, right? So you're putting yourself, a layer or level deeper into. I'm setting myself apart from just what is the norm or the easy, right? And so you see people work out every day, and there's people who show up and it's like, I can't believe we're doing this, or you just know that they're there only because they're paying to come, right? They've got a membership, and it's the thing that they do. And so
They're
they come
checking a box.
checking a box, absolutely. And then every once in a while we will do more of like a grueling event. So what comes to my mind is when we do Murph every year, right? Just one of the longer workouts. Or a couple summers ago, every month we did this like a fitness challenge event where it was like 1,000 burpees for time, and every 100 burpees was a different kind of burpee, and you did by yourself, and so you were in that for a couple hours with other people, and so that was a layer deeper of type of people, type of person, right? So of the total gym, a smaller number attended that, and then in something like a hurricane heat, that the people who are there because they also want to see what they're capable of. They also want to see if they have what it takes. And so, if you were to just randomly round up people off of the street, throw them in a bus and take them to a hurricane heat event, that would be a whole different social experiment, which is interesting to me. But my point is, you're with these people who have the similar mindset that you do. And so there's something fortifying and inspiring and motivating, and it fills you up, right? It fills you up emotionally to be around those kind of people where you're all there trying to do the same thing. Again, it's like, what am I made of? What do I have? And to see the changes that happen within you and then happen within your team through that, whether it's a 4-hour hurricane heat or 12-hour, I love that aspect, just to see the growth and the change that can happen in that kind of setting. Because you don't get that just on a Monday morning, right? You don't get that on a Thursday afternoon, just living your life. It's a very intentional, carved out time, space. It's carved out space that's the appeal for me. So
I've said this many times before, but CrossFit is a team sport. People think it isn't. They come in, they think they do their work, and then they go home. Nope. It is 100% a team effort. You will perform better when you're around people who are also performing better. Period.
Mm-hmm.
We teach that for our coaches. When we practice movements, we practice together, because that will make everybody move better as a result.
Mm-hmm.
If you just say, okay, everybody do 10 reps, and they're all moving at their own pace, chaos. If people are looking around, they're not sure. But if everybody moves together, it works well. It's like watching a giant lineup of military activity happening. Like it's in flow. It's all good. And I resonate with you about that too, that when you go to these events, you create these deep bonds with these people as well. And from doing specifically GoRuck events, we have friends around the world. Like I could go down to Tampa right now and just link up with a couple friends and stay there for a week. And they'd be like, yeah, cool. Come on down. And vice versa. If they ever come here, dude, we got a place. We got a room for you. No problem. It's crazy to see. And that also happens within the CrossFit space. We have people it's nuts. We have people that have formed lifelong friendships. We have people that have found their significant other and now have children as a result of the connection that they made within these walls. It's crazy. It's like a web. It's crazy to see how it just evolves, but it's almost predictable.
It is predictable. And it's, just like where if I were to travel, up to where you're at to do CrossFit, everybody does it a little bit different, right? There's a slightly different flavor, but it's the same thing that, I could just jump in and instantly know what we're doing, or at least be accepted in a way that, like, I don't have to just like come in your doors. Like I would feel accepted and know I'm part of this, as you said, a part of this web or part of this community And it, at least in my mind, it comes back to, again, the type of person, right? The people who care about doing something that really produces results in their lives, right? Somebody who knows that, hey, I can't do this on my own. Because we'll get that occasionally, the people who will come to us and say, hey, I've been, doing my own thing or working out on my own. I just want something different, or I need some coaching, or I need structure. And then, life will happen and they'll be with us for a while. And then, for different reasons, varied reasons, then they have to, leave the gym and they'll go back to doing their own thing. And then we'll hear from them again and say, hey, it's like, it's hard to do this on my own. And so, it's the kind of person who knows, like, hey, I'm better in community with other people. I'm better. I can't do this on my own, and doing this on my own is, I can't get where I need to get to, doing this on my own. And there's people who do that, the David Goggins of the world. And most of us are needing each other, partly too, for the reasons that we talked about, before we hit record. And that is that you can't see what you can't see. And we have this very fixed perspective of our own life, and of doing things the way that we just know how to do, or operating the way that we've always done it. And so having community with people allows you to see beyond the tunnel vision of your own line of sight. So it is, as you described, very much so a community, very much so a web. And, what strengthens that is shared adversity, for sure. And then also the vulnerability, the authenticity. And you do get that, right? You do get that in CrossFit, compared to just going to a global gym. And because you're getting into things in people's lives that are multiple levels deeper than just, hi, how are you doing? Glad you're here. There's the treadmill over there.
You'd be lucky to get that at a Good Life, if it's just anybody talking to you, right?
Yeah.
I said that to somebody. Go to one of those traditional gyms and see how many people come up and talk to you.
Mm-hmm.
I bet it won't be on one hand. I guarantee it's not going to be more than that.
Yeah.
Now come here to our 7 a.m. class. It's everybody.
Yeah.
You're getting talked to by every single person. And some people don't like that. That's fine. Maybe the traditional gym is for you. But if you're a person that needs that social connection, and we are social beings, I want to say most of us need that. We don't like being in isolation. That's why it's in prison. If you get thrown into isolation, that's like the worst thing that they could do to you, right?
Yeah.
You are going to get that social aspect when you come into this facility.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you said, that's true for any CrossFit gym that you travel to all over the world. And we've seen that. We've traveled to, all of the US and Canada and Switzerland. The response is identical. I remember when we went to Switzerland, I asked the coach at the end, I think he was the owner. And I was like, hey, do you have a shirt? Like, I'd love to buy a CrossFit Zerk shirt from you. And he goes, we don't have any shirts left. He goes, here, just take mine. And he just took it off of his body and gave it to me. I'm like, this is crazy. But that's a CrossFit gym. Like, you wouldn't get that anywhere else in the world, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, that is so true. And the other thing that I mentioned, authenticity and sincerity and vulnerability, and how, at least for me, and the whole mindset coaching provides another tool in my tool belt, but also gives me the perspective that, like, we're all the same. And when you realize that we're all the same in the sense that we go through things, that we deal with things, that we carry things, that we've experienced hard things, that we've done wrong to people, like, we've all messed up. And so when you get into a community with people and you look around and you understand that we're all the same, even though we're different expressions and different flavors and different, there is variance there. We're all the same in the fact that we're real people, like, we're humans. And if I can connect with you, um, like I mentioned, a surface deeper than just waving at you, from across the weight room, there's a good chance that I can actually make bigger improvements in my life, more lasting, more real, more effective changes in my life, by allowing myself to be in that kind of community. And what comes to my mind is going back to the hurricane heat. There was a moment in the very first one I did. It was a 4-hour event. And there was a point where we had, been doing a lot of physical activity, and then they stopped us and they had us write some things down on a piece of paper. So, something like write down your biggest regret in life, or write down whatever it was. And then you put it in the Ziploc bag, and you buried it. And it was a trying to think of the right word to explain. It was a moving moment, right? So there were people who were really touched and moved by the moment, and the symbolism that specific exercise had in that moment. And looking back on it now, I know, just with what we've gone through, and lifted and coaching, and how stories affect who you are, past, present, and then as you carry into the future. I look back on that and I wonder how changed are those people, and are they still carrying those same things? And so if I can get into a community of people where, where we are being vulnerable with each other, where we are getting into, like I said, layers deeper of, hey, you just showed up to do this back squat, 1 rep max back squat day, and I can tell that you're already loaded up with 300 pounds on your back of emotional weight. We're not going to worry about you 1 rep maxing today, because you're going to end up, hurting yourself, or you're not going to hit the number that you're hoping to. And then you'll develop this whole idea around, this isn't working and it's not for me. And whatever else.
Or back squats are dangerous.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And so, creating a community where you are realizing, hey, we're all the same, and I can deal with some of these things in a safe place with people who know how, right, who have the right tools, because we talk about the things that we talk about how to do that. Then I can, like I said, I can go farther. I can have more lasting change. And I just wonder where those people in that hurricane heat are at today. Are they still carrying that same thing that even though they buried it in the dirt we were digging, are they still dealing with the same thing today? And so what matters to me as I own this CrossFit affiliate, in part of this massive web, this bigger picture, this ecosystem of people who care about their fitness and care about their bettering their life. I truly want to see people's lives change, and I truly want to see them have lasting change and real change. And like I said, it doesn't happen unless you're able to go a couple layers deeper. And so that's what I do. That's what I appreciate about being able to have a CrossFit affiliate and run it the way that you want to. The methodology works, and if you care about people and you create a culture and a community of people who recognize the ways that they can better themselves beyond just making their thruster weight heavier, or PRing their pull-ups in a minute or whatever it is. If I recognize that I can better myself, truly better who I am as a person, then that's lasting changes. So that's what I'm in. That's what I'm in this for. And all of that for me, it ties together. All of that for me ties. That's why I do the hurricane heats, or have that desire. It's just like, man, I want to see people experience lasting change. That's why I got into ministry, went to school for ministry, church ministries, because I wanted to see people's lives changed. And it's taken me a good long while to realize, like, you don't have to go to church ministry or be in church ministry to help people change their lives. And 8 years now into owning an affiliate and having gone through the Enlifted method, it's like I feel planted right where I need to be to help people to make that change. So I've said so much there, Kevin. I don't remember where we started, but
I was just about to say, as stated at the start, I don't know where this is going to go, but so far this has been spot on, and it's been impactful for me to listen to, and I know it will be impactful for the listeners as well. I'd like to just shift it a little, and this is the Resilient Humans podcast, and I'd like to hear, and I don't want to assume, but I could assume based on everything that you've already talked about how you'll answer this. But I would like to hear, what is your definition of resiliency? How would you describe it?
So it's a really great question. And how I would answer it is that resiliency is being the kind of person that is willing to continue growing. Because the person who isn't willing to continue growing just decides, oh, this is where I'm going to stop. And the reason that they would stop is because hundreds of reasons, right? They would stop because I'm good enough. This is fine. I'm fine here. They get themselves to a place where they're comfortable in their life, and then all of a sudden, or they just decide that they stop there, and then something comes along and blows them off their chair, right? But they've decided, because I'm comfortable, I'm good. There's people who stop being on the path of developing themselves and developing resiliency because they get overwhelmed, because they believe the story about themselves that they are the victim, or that they're the imposter, or that they're the failure. And so they just sit down and decide that this is how much, so they give up, right? So the resilient person is the one who, in spite of the failures and the feelings of overwhelm and the feelings of I'm a failure, and despite the fact that, things are actually pretty good right now, I'm comfortable. So either end of those spectrum, they recognize that there's still an opportunity for better. There's still an opportunity for more. And I say that very broadly because, again, that can be defined in a whole bunch of different ways. What does better mean? Right? That can be looked at in a whole lot of different ways. But it's the person who just doesn't ever stop the journey. And the question I've been pondering a lot lately is, if I look back over the course of my life, or just pick a time frame, if I look back over the course of a year and I don't see any kind of growth in any area, if I'm not recognizing the things that I have more mental toughness in, or the things that would continue to trip me up, if I don't see any kind of growth in those areas, there's a good chance that I've settled, or that I'm stuck. And so having resilience is being able to look back and go, yep, check, I see that. Yep, check, I see that. I see growth. And again, pick a time frame, pick a year. Are you at a better place, a different place, a more improved place than you were a year ago, or 5 years ago, or 10 years ago? And getting into my backstory and specific things with my backstory is a whole different episode. But I speak from experience in being able to say, again, like, if you just decide that you're a failure, you're going to sit down. And being resilient is deciding, no matter who you are, what you've done, where you're at, I'm going to keep going forward in a way that makes me a better person. Why? So that I can then be a better person for people around me. So if I'm a husband or a father, who I am developing resilience in myself enables me to be a better version of that. If I'm, if I'm a employee, if I'm a business owner, if I'm an affiliate, or whatever it is, right? Um, Being resilient is recognizing the need to continually be pressing forward into, hey, I can't learn what I think I already know. I can't see what I can't see. And so it's that person who doesn't stop.
I like how you made that it's applicable to any aspect of your life. It's not just one thing. Um, as you were talking, I was trying to relate that to like, what does that look practically? And if I do that reflection and look back and ask myself, have I improved? Am I better? What am I actually looking for? And
Mhm.
for me, I'm looking at the things that I've done. Like,
Mhm.
what have I done that's different? I took this mindset course, or I climbed this mountain, or I approached this um, difficult situation in a way that I've never done before, and it was uncomfortable, but the outcome was better. Like,
Mhm.
it doesn't always have to be like a physical feat. It
Mhm.
can be just the way you approach certain situations that are different as well. I parented in a different way than I've done before.
Mhm.
Instead of, reacting by yelling and screaming, I sat down and I listened. I sought to understand first. That's improvement. You're making yourself better. And that's something that you can then use in different aspects of your life as well. Right.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's exactly it. And for me, that hits home because I've got kids, and I know my tendencies when it comes to just wanting to control aspects of my life, right? And so when it feels out of control, that's when my life spins out of control, spins in circles, and I feel all of the overwhelm and it's I can't believe life is so hard and it's like that. And so being able to look back on, hey, you know what? Like this thing happened, and you actually took a second to breathe, and you stayed down regulated, and
Yep.
you didn't yell, to the kids about, because they weren't listening, and and when your spouse brings up, something that would in the past trigger you to this defensive position, um, you actually took a breath and listened. And so, yeah, identifying those, in the enlifted certification, we learned about celebrating wins, right? And being able to pull meaning from those wins. And I'll tell you, like for me, that was super difficult to just even find wins, right? Wins of physical feat, or of physical nature, right? The completing the hurricane heats, or the things that you're super proud of that you've done in your life. Um, so it's hard to find those, and it's even can be more difficult to identify the wins where, you know what, you actually responded by listening instead of blowing up at the person. But and yet those are wins, and yet those are indications of, yes, you are growing, because you are not the same person that would just spiral out of control. You're not the same person that would just get sent into a tailspin of victim mentality. And so, practically speaking, just like with the Unlifted method, where we work with people to identify and write down those wins, if you're not um, taking note of those things by writing them down in some form,
Mm.
at the end of the day, it's like, well, thinking back over my day, what are the things that happened? If I'm not chronicling the the interactions that I had with my kids or my spouse or the coworker or the boss or whoever it is, if I'm not reflecting on the day and pulling from those interactions a good thing that happened, you're gonna have a very hard time seeing that, and that just carries over then into, what does this mean about you? Who are, and you have this whole identity thing of like, I guess I'm just stuck. So yeah, practically speaking, writing it down is the way to go.
That's cool. You answered my question without me asking it, which was, how do you practically become more resilient? And you just gave us the answer. So Appreciate
Yeah,
that.
it's that, and when we're looking at resiliency, it's being willing to get into positions that you wouldn't normally. I mean, it practically speaking, do all the things that we said about writing down ways that you can celebrate wins, but also be willing to put yourself into positions that you wouldn't normally. Why? Because if I've grown in an area of, hey, this thing doesn't bother me anymore, or this thing doesn't trigger me anymore. Well, what if I could put myself now in a new opportunity where I'm going to test that out. Actually, I'm going to test out if I am truly growing in resilience as a husband, right? And I'm not saying to go overboard or be just stupid about it, but put yourself in positions where whether it's doing a physical thing like, hey, I would never do a hurricane heat or a go ruck, or I would never do it. Why not? Why don't you? And so if you can look at the evidence of, well, you've actually done this, this, and this, why don't you now put yourself out into an opportunity that's new and stretches you? And I could also do the same thing then with non-physical things, of course, but it's seeing what you got, seeing what you're made of.
I would ask the question, what's stopping you? If it's something physical, like, well, I can't even run, 5K. Perfect. You now have an action item.
Mhm.
We can come up with a plan. We've taken people from the couch to 5K. Like that's been well documented that that's very, very possible. If it's, well, I might quit okay, well, that sounds like a mindset thing.
Mhm.
We also have tools and practices that we can use to help you with that side of it.
Mhm.
So by asking the question, what's stopping you, you now come up with a plan on why aren't you doing it now?
Mhm. Mhm.
Now you have an action item. Now you can actually go out and do something about it.
Mhm. Yeah, and for most of us, whatever is stopping you very likely feels highly complicated and complex, and
Correct.
it's simplifying it. And if you are having a tough time simplifying, that's when you recruit the services of somebody who knows how to simplify it for you, and that's what you do. And that's what I've been trained to do as well. And it's simplifying what seemingly seems complicated and complex. And it's
And
like,
infinite. Often those problems seem infinite. There's so many aspects to it. Really, if we just pick up a pen, I bet we could solve this problem in less than 10 minutes.
yeah, it's almost too easy though, right? Like that's what people think is like, oh no, that would never work. Um, and so it's this like, let me just show you, and then
Yeah,
oh,
yeah. I like taking people through a word game. Like it's so impactful. Like we just play one word game and they're like, whoa, like they can feel it. And when you can feel the difference playing a word game, then they're in.
Mhm.
They've bought into the rest of it. So um it's like my little tester of drugs. You give them a little packet to start and say, like, hey, you want to try this out? And they'd be like, yeah, okay. And then they're hooked. They're
Mhm.
in. But it lifted as a good drug.
Mhm. Yeah, it's an
Makes you
effect.
better.
To safe use. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. Cool. Ryan, this has been an awesome conversation. I appreciate you coming on. If people want to find you on the socials, where would they do that?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook. You can just search my name, Ryan Fellows. And I'm on Instagram, same name. It's at Ryan Fellows. Um, and CrossFit Resound, we're also out there. So that's the easiest way to find me. um, and yeah, I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about these things today. I could talk about it for hours, truly. And I appreciate it.
Well, here's your action item. After this, you're going to go out there and you're going to find the next podcast that you're going to be on. You're going to stretch that comfort zone, aren't you?
Deal. Yeah, yeah. That's Hey, we can talk about things, but it doesn't apply to us, Kevin. That absolutely
Right.
does. No, this is actually even being on this with you. When we first talked about it, my initial reaction physically was, nope, you can't
Yep.
do that. And so this being on here is a stretch. So I knew you were right when you talked about it, and I know you're right again because you're a pro coach, and so I will do that. I will take action.
To say I hate hearing that would be an understatement, but yeah. It's funny. I had somebody on recently, and she actually had questions written out for me. I was like, but I'm interviewing you. That's not how this works.
Mm-hmm.
And she asked, or wanted to ask me, how do I see in others what they can't see in themselves?
Mm.
And that was a really good question. And it comes from a lot of pattern recognition.
Mm.
Like I've coached thousands of people now. Like I've been in this game for, coaching people now for almost 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
I can see the patterns, and I can see what people are capable of. I can see what the stories in their heads that's holding them back without them ever verbalizing what it is. They don't need to tell me. I can see it. I already know based on how you speak, how you move, how you present yourself. I already know. I know those things.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I asked you to be on this podcast, I knew you would be a solid guest because of how you talk, how you present yourself. I can tell the passion that you have in everything that you do, not by what you say, but how you say it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's Rachel. If you're listening to this, that's my answer to your question.
Yeah. And I appreciate that. And it's no different than coaching CrossFit, right? In that if I'm just looking at people move, I'm just seeing bodies move. But if I know what to look for, I can see and I can correct, right? If I know I'm looking at the hip and whether it's getting all the way open or not, I can make that correction if I know what I'm looking for. And so when I'm interacting with people, there's patterns there. Like I mentioned earlier, like we're all the same. We're all the same and so for the people out there who are feeling the overwhelm or my life is so complicated and complex and I want to be resilient, but I don't know how. It's trusting somebody who sees patterns and who knows what to look for, because it's such an easy fix. It's such an easy change to be able to say, here you go. Here's the change. Here's the fix. But you're right. It's the pattern there. So, but I appreciate, thank you. Thank you for saying that.
No problem, Ryan. Thanks for coming on. And I'll share your links in the show notes. And anyway, thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with others or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest episodes, be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.